Well, hello everyone. I've been a bit under the weather, but I wanted to hop on today to give you a really quick, exciting update, and that is about the rest of Alex's funds. It's a little bit late. We expected this announcement in the middle of January. It's now February, but better late than never. Let's get started. This is Legal Updates with Cassidy. The money has been distributed. Welcome. So I knew we were getting close because I saw an update in the file the other day, so I've been checking in often. And here it came this evening, just a couple of hours ago. I was out cutting wood for a new top to my desk, and I'm excited because I will be showing that to you soon. I checked before I went out, and I checked when I came back in, and it came in that time. But here is that order. And it starts off by saying that they were granted this permission on September the 19th. And if you'll remember, I went over that one a while back. And it did say if mediation was not successful, that they would call in a special referee. And of course that happened. And it says in light of the unsuccessful mediation, the funds in the possession of the co-receivers are equitably allocated as follows. So unsurprisingly, the mediation was unsuccessful, and that's why it was a little bit late. Now it says it was divided according to Black's Law Dictionary. This is one of the most, if not the most, valuable reference tool for anything legal. It helps with legal meanings, with phrases, with terms, anything that you might come across in law codes. So when describing these notions of equity, we come across words like just, conformable to the principles of natural justice and right, just, fair, and right. We keep hearing these same words, fairness, justness, right dealing. So these were the guidelines, not just simple percentages as some people may have guessed. They used principles of justness and fairness to make these decisions. I think they did pretty good. How they came up with what was fair is this long list of bullet points: actual financial loss, relevant circumstances and timing of that loss, the nature of the harm. I've got to say, I'm impressed by these. The strength or tenuousness of the underlying legal claim. And this was a really important one to me. It's the reason, as a lot of you probably guessed, I had said that I felt more comfortable putting the Satterfields at the end. That's because I didn't want to say, until I had told all the stories, why I didn't think they deserved any of this money. That's because out of everyone, they have recovered the most. And I'm so glad to see that the referees took this into consideration for all of the claimants. They also considered the percentage of the recovery as it compares to the actual financial loss, which is another really important factor. As they say, some claimants have recovered less than their loss. Some have recovered 100% of their loss, and others have recovered in excess of 200% of their loss. Whether any part of the loss could be attributable to the conduct and or knowledge of the claimant. I think that probably applies the most to the claimants from the boat case. But also, importantly, I think to PMPED. Whether any claimant has pending claims remaining, some of these people are still pursuing claims, and not all of them will be public, just like some of the settlements that some have received have not been made public. How settlements with other non-claimants affected the value of the receivership estate. The nature of the relationship, this one was interesting, between the claimant and Alex Murdaugh. Agreements with others to share any recovery, and whether that agreement allows for non-claimants to participate in any award made herein. And finally, the calculation of the claim presented in this matter, including categories of alleged loss and damages. Then it tells us that they've been broken down into several categories. We have a group that were the boat victims. That was Mallory's mom, Renee Beach, Miley Altman, Mallory's best friend, and Morgan Doty, Paul's girlfriend. The conservatorship victims, like the Plyler sisters, Hakeem, Natasha, and Arthur Badger's children. Then there's the law firm itself, and loan victims. And then finally, the last category, claimants who allege their lawsuit was mishandled but there was no direct theft. And we had that, if you watched my Arthur Badger story, you would see the other two people that were in the car, one had passed, one was injured. And they alleged that because Alex was so focused on stealing the money from Arthur and Donna, that he hadn't properly pursued their case. So they wanted what they feel they lost because they could have made more. It goes on to say that each group is unique and that many factors were considered when making this allocation. Some of the cases did involve a confession of judgment signed by Alex, so that was taken into consideration. And then on to more personal things that I'm really glad they took into account, rather than just doing straight percentages divided equally, was the amount and degree of hurt and devastation. And I will be going over the rest of these stories still. I just hadn't gotten to it because we ended up with the hearing, which kind of disrupted that. But now we'll have these percentages in mind before we do those stories, which can kind of alter the route I'll take with the storytelling. And I like this part. It says, in a perfect world, there would be unlimited funds. I thought that was a very kind statement. They recognize that all of these people do have a claim, and it would be wonderful if there were funds to give them all what they ask for. But it's just not possible because of the limited funds. It goes on, as previously noted, some claimants injured by Alex Murdaugh have been fortunate to have recovered more, and in some cases substantially more, than their loss. However, because the funds in the receivership estate are limited, difficult decisions regarding the allocation must be made. As such, the following has been determined to be the most equitable allocation of the limited funds in the receivership estate. First, all outstanding legal fees, including special referee fees, costs, and any remaining receivership expenses, shall be paid. I will be curious to see how much they're charging for this because, in my opinion, they've already taken too much. After the payment of such fees, costs, and expenses, the remaining balance of the receivership estate shall be allocated by percentage of the total amount remaining as follows. Elania Spone, formerly Plyler, 0%. Hannah Plyler, 0%. Brian Harriet and Michael Tony Satterfield, 0%. Alex's brother Randy Murdaugh, 0%. John Parker, 15%. And I haven't done his story yet. He is Parker of PMPED. This is not for the firm. These are loans that he'd given to Alex that was never paid back. Renee Beach gets the most because you can't put a price on the loss of a child. And it's in her capacity as the personal representative of Mallory's estate. She gets 29%. Miley Altman, 5%. Morgan Doty, 11%. And I think they get less, possibly that little line about conduct and knowledge. But that's just my guess. It doesn't say that officially. Ava Mae Marshall, 0%. She was the one also in the accident with Arthur Badger. Charles Haley, the personal representative of Charles Haley Jr.'s estate, 0%. He was also in the Arthur Badger accident and he was killed. They both did receive a settlement, but as I said, they felt the settlement was too low because they think Alex was too concerned with stealing from the Badgers and didn't put enough attention to their cases. And I'm so happy to see the second highest number granted to Arthur Badger, 24%. Part of it for himself, part of it in his position as the personal representative of his wife Donna's estate. Randy Drawdy, another victim, 0.2%, possibly because he's already received some, and we will be covering his story to explain that. Manuel Santis Cristiani, I have done a podcast about him quite a while back, but it does need some updating. He comes in at 1%. There is a lot of controversy about what he received. And the footnote with that little 2 is that he didn't file on time. It was limited by date, but they did go ahead and include him even though it was past the date. Henry Henderson, and he also filed late. So I do have to track his story down, and I will. And then we have the law firm, and I was surprised to see how much. 14%. Surprised and a little disgusted, but the filing that I found the other day does explain that a little bit, and we see that here in the footnote. that says the special referee has determined that PMPED is entitled to an equitable distribution of 14% of the receivership estate. The amount awarded was limited in part by a PMPED's existing agreement wherein potential claimants who did not file claims in this process and their counsel will receive a portion of the recovery from the receivership estate. The potential claimants who are to be the beneficiaries of said agreement have already covered more than their financial loss and would not have been awarded any additional monies if they had filed a claim in this matter. I will be covering PMPED's claim, and that will explain a lot more there. The reason that they got money is because they have paid out a lot to these victims, but in the document filed the other day, they had been asked about what they intended to do with the monies that they may or may not receive. Their first response was on January the 19th, and it said that they had notified the special referee of all persons or entities who will receive a portion of any of their recovery from the receivership estate. They were obviously asked to follow up because then on January 26th, they amended that statement as follows. PMPED files this amended statement at the request of the special referee, identifying the persons or entities that have a contractual agreement to recover a percentage of any net recovery by PMPED up to a limit against the receivership estate. This confidential agreement was previously provided to the special referee on December 18th. The agreement is between PMPED and the following clients represented by Justin Bamberg, Christopher Anderson, Angel Gary, both individually and as personal representative of the estate of Blondell Gary, Johnny Bush, Natasha Thomas, Pamela Pinckney, individually and as personal representative of the estate of Hakeem Pinckney, Jamie and Risher, and Malik Williams. So it was because of this agreement and claims already collected by these people that some of the money was held back to go to others who had not received as much. Now, it doesn't tell us which of these people have received in excess of their loss, but apparently it's at least some on this list. So that explains the limit that was put on to PMPED's claim, which I'm glad because then it leaves more for the others here. So that sums this document up, short and sweet, and finally some good news in this case, at least until we see how much these guys took. And I will let you know as soon as I know. Until then, this is Cassidy O'Connell saying stay well and stay tuned.